Most of you are probably expecting David. He's actually off in a meeting right now, so I'm filling in for him. He and I were actually going to do this tech break this time together. However, I'm doing today's and then we'll both do tomorrow's. This is very informal. We're going to go over a couple things at any point in time. If you have questions or want more information about things or have thoughts or ideas or concerns, please feel free to voice those. The information that's up here will be shared. The last session that he did last time, unfortunately I couldn't make it. I wasn't working that day, but he has it posted through the intranet and we're working on a system. This will be up there once we get it all finished along with that, but we're working on a system that's going to actually house these once we do it, along with different resources that tie into tools and tips and stuff for you to use. A lot of the stuff that we talk about is stuff that can be used with distance learning, but also stuff that can be used in regular seated courses as well. So I want to show you a few things, talk to you about a few things. The first thing that I want to talk to you about, it has up here Moodle and Blackboard transition, but before I get into that, one of the things I really want to talk about, and there's been a little bit of confusion about, is the role between the three of us of what we do. We're not sure what we are. We're not a division, so we refer to ourselves as the distance learning team, and that's comprised of myself. My title is Director of Distance Learning, David Biddix, who's the instructional technologist, and Melissa Grill, who still does Blackboard administration, LMS administration. So she works with enrolling students, adding in evaluations, troubleshooting, all that type stuff. From a learning management system standpoint, we all three will be working together to kind of look as we go from Moodle. I put Moodle to Blackboard. I put that backwards. I'll adjust that. But as we go from Blackboard to Moodle, we're really going to look at some academic design, the way that we're building things and producing things, and so we'll all three be involved in that. David's primary role is going to be a lot of what this is right here, coming up with different training sessions, staff development workshops, to show you some interesting topics that are being discussed, tools that are being used, philosophies, different things like that. He and I together will be working on, with a lot of people one-on-one, or a lot of departments one-on-one, helping in a hands-on format to convert from Blackboard to Moodle. We're not just going to give you a training and push you out there and say, good luck, hope you make it. We're going to sit down with everyone that wants it. I mean, there's some people on campus that have been working with Blackboard for years and they're really comfortable. Moodle for years and they're really comfortable with it, and so they'll probably fly on their own. But our roles kind of are separate in three different areas, but then we kind of hit a lot of gray areas in between. So basically any troubleshooting that comes out of an LMS, whether it's Blackboard or Moodle, those questions go directly to Melissa and she handles that. She handles the student side of it. She handles the instructor side of it. Instructional technology tools can come to either David or myself, and we'll all three be working together. So as I talk about that, there's a lot of people have been asking questions, and let me make this adjustment because it bothers me up here. Okay. Blackboard to Moodle transition. A lot of people have started to ask questions because there's been some buzz about the fact of a lot of people know that our plan is here to move away from Blackboard as we've been used to using for many, many years and to move into using Moodle. And so we've been working on a timeline to share with everyone that we've talked with Dr. Bledsoe, Academic Affairs. I talked with the deans at their meeting, and we kind of have a little timeline that we're working with right now. It goes as follows. We're basically working on developing the training modules right now. We are getting ready to release the training module to both the Distance Learning Committee and the deans, hopefully within the next 2 or 3 weeks. where we stand with that right now. We've got the server built and everything seems to be working okay, except for when we do updates, it's kind of deleting the users, which is a big problem. And so Melissa's having to recreate those. So Melissa's doing the troubleshooting on that part right now. Once we get that down, we've actually got most of the training already developed. We've just got to get those other things in place before we release it. We're going to release that as kind of our test group to kind of look at it, get ideas, get thoughts, comments, and kind of make adjustments before we release it to a larger population of the faculty in the spring. Course development will take place throughout the spring semester. For those who are ready to jump right into it from the beginning, that doesn't mean that everyone's expected on campus to develop all their courses in Moodle this spring, and then next fall everyone is expected to begin using Moodle. But the first rollout is targeted for fall of 2013, and those are going to be basically that group of people who are familiar with Moodle, who have worked with it for a long time, and are excited about using it. As fall hits, next fall hits, we'll begin coming up with a stronger transition plan, but everything has to be transitioned over to Moodle by the 2015-2016 academic year. We are locked in through the state to 4 more years of Blackboard being our supported LMS, and what that basically means is that doesn't mean that we have to use strictly Blackboard for the next 5 years. The state does one of two things. They either pay for you to use Blackboard, or they pay for hosting for Moodle. Now Moodle is what's called an open source product. It's free. However, when you get into hosting, where they maintain the servers, they update the servers, they take care of that technical side of it and a few other things, then there's a cost involved with that. So we do have the option right now as a college to pay for that on our own and go straight into Remote Learner, which is the hosting site, instead of going to Moodle. But basically what Remote Learner is it's a version of, it's Moodle, it's just hosted by someone. Whereas right now, we host Blackboard on our campus, and right now we're building Moodle to host on our campus. So by 2015-2016, Blackboard will have no support, will have no technical stuff behind Blackboard. So our goal is over the next 3 to 4 years to transition out of that into Moodle.
So Chris, what are the major things that are different between Blackboard and Moodle?
The tools are, well, let's see. The major things that are different are the look and feel of it is completely different. In Blackboard, you have buttons on the side that you use, and you can add to buttons, take away from buttons, and stuff like that. In Moodle, it's just basically links, just like you would find on a web, like a word that's highlighted, underlined, you click on the word, it takes you to a different place. You do have the possibility of doing different tests, announcements, adding documents, embedding video, different things, like the same type concepts that you have available in Blackboard. However, like when you go to set up your assessments and your grade book, the way that the grade book is set up is different, the way that it scores things. You have several more options in Moodle than you did in Blackboard. One of the options that you're going to hear more about, especially through the assessment committee, is that Moodle has a thing called outcomes, where it allows you to set up a scale, like a rubric, and so you can grade based on a rubric or a Likert scale, and so you're going to see a lot of that as we move into looking at different types of assessment. So it's going to be a transition period that's going to be kind of difficult at first, because it's a whole new look, it's a whole different ball game, but a lot of the tools are very similar. The way that the grading is done is the main one. The look of it's another. We're going to, I'm trying to think of what else we've talked about that's different within. I may think of a couple more things here in a minute, but those are the main ones. But that transitions to take place by the 2015-2016 year. Now, I have I have picked out 4 different tools to share with you today. And of these 4 different tools, I will go ahead and warn you before I start talking to you about them that some of them are going to kind of require sort of a different philosophy or line of thinking with instruction when used. And the reason why I say that is because they allow for, or not necessarily require, but one of the things that I know, especially coming from public education and at the college, university level, a lot of people are hesitant with allowing phones in the classroom. And that's the main thing. But if we look at it, a lot of the phones that students have these days are actually mini computers. So when I'm talking about a change in philosophy, I'm not saying like we're going to have to completely redo our instruction, but there are a lot of people that are, as an instructor, that are terrified to allow a student to use a phone within their classroom. And so a lot of these may involve using those phones in some way, shape, or form. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a phone. It can be an iPad. It can be your tablets, whether they be the Android tablets or the Samsung tablets. It can be laptops. It can be all those type things. To where essentially you're creating a lab out of any classroom without actually bringing computers in or paying for that. You're using basically the bring your own device philosophy. So some of these you'll find that you may use, some of them you may not be comfortable with using at all. The one thing I will say before I start that they are all free, there's not a cost involved. Now there are upgrades you can do that you can spend more on in different ways. But I'll go ahead and show you a couple of them. The first one I want to talk about is Today's Meet. Has anyone heard of Today's Meet? Today's Meet, and I'll bring up the first link, what is a back channel, is an example of a back channel. And what this is in your class, especially like when you're doing lectures and different things like that, a lot of times you have, the students raise their hands and stop and ask questions, but there are far more many students that have questions than actually ask those questions. One, because they're embarrassed that they may say something wrong or do something wrong or not look right in front of the students. So what Today's Meet is a back channel that basically I set it up real simple, and it tells me a back channel is everything going on in the room that isn't coming from the presenter. Back channel is where people ask each other questions, pass notes, get distracted, and give you the most immediate feedback you'll ever get. So I think about it back when I was in the classroom as a student years ago. You got bored and you were listening to a lecture and you had no idea what was going on. You might turn to the person beside you and ask, like, what in the world are we talking about? I have no idea. But you wouldn't ever dare say that to your instructor because it wouldn't make sense. So what this does, if I go to the actual Today's Meet website, this is as simple as it gets. There's no creating of a username. There's no creating of an account. It's just basically todaysmeet.com, and it's MEET for some reason. But anyways, I said that wrong. It's supposed to be MEET. You create a room. And this could be, it doesn't have to be anything specific. For instance, the one that I created today that I want to bring up in a minute is Techbreak 2. You can type anything in here, and what it does is it creates a temporary URL or temporary internet address that you'll use, and then you tell it how long you want to keep the data, like what's presented inside of here. So I'm going to create one that just says Tech Test, and I'm only going to keep the data in here for 2 hours, and then it's wiped out completely, cannot be found again after that 2 hours. Okay, and you see you have choices 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, and so forth. But once you do that, that's all you do. And it takes a minute, it checks and says it's available. Okay? And so the address that you would post, or what you would show your students, is that you would just show them todaysmeet.com/techtest. And so on their device, this could be done in a lab. If you're in a lab and you're working in a lab and they have a computer in front of them, you could definitely use it there. It could be done from a phone or so forth. All they have to do is put in their name, and you can talk to them. It's your expectations use your first name if you really want to use your name or so forth. But think of the concept right now. I would not have this up on my projector as I'm teaching. I just have it here on my computer where I'm watching it. I would have, for instance, this may be up here, and I may be going over something that's specific to class and what we're talking about. I don't keep that display up there, because what that display does is in the background on my computer, I'm watching and I'm talking, and John goes in. He says, I have no idea what a back channel is, okay? So while of course, and this would require you to have an instructor machine in the classroom, but one of the things that I have the ability to do is say if I'm working on, I don't know if this has a freeze button on it. I don't have it in here. But if I'm talking about this, I have that running in the background, and I can glance over at my computer and I can see that all of a sudden I've been talking about something and John has said, I have no idea what a back channel is. So I can stop in my instruction and go back and start talking about that to expand on it a little bit more.
How do you know it came from him?
How do I know it came from him? Real tiny right here, it's hard to see, it's in gray, but it says their first name, and it says it was submitted via web.
Okay.
I can do that from my iPad, I can do that from my phone. At no point in time is it causing me to create an account. All I simply do is when I go to today's meet/tech test, then they put that information in and they put their name. And it's kind of like Twitter in the fact that they only have 140 characters, so they can't write you a book in there and all of a sudden you have to try to read all the way down through this. They only have 140 characters, but they can say, I get it, I really understand. Or they can say, I have no idea and I really need to know more information about this. And you may, by using this in your instruction, come up with 2 or 3 students who you find through this route have no clue that you would have never known until later on down the road in a major assessment, major test, that they didn't know what was going on. So if you're in the middle of a lecture, you can kind of back up and go back over that topic and use it again. And they can use this if you're doing group projects in your instruction, you've assigned a group project. It's something that they can use to communicate back and forth. That's a free tool that doesn't require, like I said, an account, any stuff like that. You can dump the information right away, or when you're finished, you can get a transcript of the whole entire conversation of what's going on. And I'll show you this, and hopefully it'll work from here if I can do it real fast. If I go onto my phone, it should automatically update here in a minute.
In other words, this only applies if you have like a lecture or traditional format, because if you don't want people to see it, and if you have projector ongoing, it will show anything that's on your screen, like the instructor's screen.
Yeah, to a point. There's not basically in the situation that I'm in right now, like if I did have a second device, I'd almost have to have a second device in that situation. Like if I were going and I was using this for my instruction and I did have an iPad or something I could use, then I could have it set up and run it through that. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to be flipping back and forth, because then if you did post this and put this up there, then sometimes you might be defeating the purpose of what you were actually trying to do. So, And you see that from my phone, automatically it updated. It took it a couple seconds because I was on the transcript, but I sent it from my phone, and now I said, George says I understand. And so it just would keep on automatically. I mean, it's real time. It would just keep updating itself as you go along. The next thing that I want to show you, and these links again, all this information we're going to share through the web off of the intranet for now until we get a better solution set up. We're eventually going to develop a wiki that we constantly build and add these tools to, but all this stuff will be up there, so you'll be able to go back to it and click these links. They have tutorials.
Out where?
It's not up yet because Dan's out till tomorrow, so we have to send the information to him. But once he comes in, then if you go to the intranet under Academic Affairs, then there's I think it's online technology tools or something similar to that. I'll bring it up here in a minute and show you where it is. But it's under Academic Affairs on the intranet for right now. And it has David's resources from the presentation he did a couple weeks ago on podcasts. So basically I showed you, I have a link to a live example I'd created for this tech break. I showed you an example live there. It talks about some frequently asked questions, questions that might not have come up today that you might get answered here. And then it still explains what a back channel is. The next one I use all the time, and you may use this in a variety of ways. This may not be used necessarily for instruction. Has anyone in here ever heard of or used Evernote? Tried? Okay. Evernote is extremely powerful, and I have it installed on, this may not be necessarily something you would use for instruction, but it would be something you would share with your students for them to use within their academic activities. But Evernote is an application, almost like a program, and it's free. You can install it. I can install it on a regular PC. I can install it on my phone. I can install it on a tablet. Anything I install it on, I create an account, and it's free. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to do a number of different things. You can take notes by just typing it. Unfortunately, right now, it doesn't allow you to just write on the actual tablet. Like if I have an iPad, I can't take a stylus and write my notes. I actually have to type them out. But you can type notes. If I'm in a workshop and there's a slide up here that I really want and I have a device that'll do it, I can either take my iPad, my phone, or even if my computer has a built-in camera, I can turn it and take a picture of that slide. It inserts video, pictures, voice. It has a voice recorder built into it. So like for instance, this activity that I'm doing right now with technology, if I wanted to record this, when I open it up, I have a little bitty microphone here, and I can tell it to record, and automatically through the built-in microphone in my computer, it's going to record the audio of our entire session. So I don't need to sit there through that entire session and take notes. I don't need to type everything out or any of that stuff, because what I can do later is after I've recorded it, it's going to put it in my presentation. I can move it to wherever I want, but I can actually go back and play it, and while I'm listening to it at the same time, type on the same document and take my notes at a later point in time. I don't have to be concerned with trying to get everything written down all at the same time. I can go back and type those out, and then if I want to delete the audio file, keep it, hold on to it. But instantly, once I do it there, wherever I have that application installed on, I can go here and open it up now. That same presentation or those same notes are automatically on here. They're here. It also has the feature inside of it that allows me to, and I've used this a couple times already, basically on the assessment committee, I took notes from our session the other day, and then when I'm finished, I can go up to, I have some options with that note. I can send it. If I want to post to Facebook, Twitter, not necessarily, but I can email note. And so I don't have to go back into my email. All I do is I just go down to email note, type in whoever's email address I need to put in there. If I want a message to go along with it, I do that, I send it, I'm done. And so they have notes from the whole entire session, whatever it may be. So Inside,
Send my docs to go.
can you put it in docs to
Yeah,
go?
can you send it to your docs to go, or no? You save it in like docs to go?
I don't know if you can or not, I'll have to test that and see. I'm not sure that you can. I think it's all separate. Now, this is one of those that I was telling you about, that this is all free. But something like what you're talking about might be available, like you have an upgrade my account, that might be available like if you do the paid version. I'm not sure, I'd have to check to see if the free version does it, if the paid version does it. I'm not sure which does this. You have so much in a free account. I want to say you have 60 megabytes of storage per month, and it cycles over. So like if I'm taking a lot of pictures, then that's going to kind of go through a lot of my storage fairly quickly. But if I'm doing a lot of recording, like if I take and record a video and stick in there, then that's going to wipe my availability out real quick. But if I'm just doing a lot of text notes, or I'm just doing a lot of typing, then that doesn't take much storage space at all. And inside of here, you can set up notebooks.